Hey guys, this is Anthony over at MMOBomb.com, and today I'll be doing a first look for Torchlight Infinite on PC. Just like in previous first look videos, I'll guide you guys through the beginning hours. We'll hit all of the major points so you can get a general feel for the in-game features, gameplay, and other areas while talking about the positives and negatives. This way you can decide if this game is worth your time or not from our starting impressions. Developed by XD Entertainment, Torchlight Infinite is free to play and has been in open beta since October 11th on Android and PC. XD advertised Infinite as a true loot-based ARPG set within the Torchlight universe. Players will venture through the world of Leptis to restore light to the land and overcome the looming darkness infecting the environment and heroes. The main appeals of Infinite are the preset heroes players can make with impressive build flexibility, loot-based grinding, 3-month exclusive season banners, and dynamic boss fights. How all of those factors come together is always a big worry for a new ambitious ARPG. For Infinite, I believe it manages to exceed in some areas, like its build progression and boss fights. What's troubling though is that someone wanting to invest a lot of time in Infinite will encounter its questionable monetization. According to the community, the decision making from XD on Infinite's cash shop and other offerings is fueling the pay-to-win mechanics that may turn players off if they're min-maxing, which honestly is a significant chunk of the ARPG fanbase. Despite that, there's so much to enjoy about Torchlight Infinite, way more than I thought after booting it up on Steam. Players can choose between 5 preset character classes at the character creation screen: Berserker Rehan, the Divine Shot Karino, Frostfire Gemma, Spacetime Witness Yuga, and Commander Moto. Each will have base hero traits that fill a playstyle, such as excelling in minion-based melee or ranged combat. They will also have different hero traits, kind of like subclasses, with drastically unique talent skills. For example, Yuga's Spacetime Illusion based trait has another called Spacetime Elapse, a subclass geared towards twisting the time space and is unlockable with the in-game currency hero emblems. The upside to this is that players can focus on understanding the base hero traits before branching into others, but it does feel disappointing if you want to try the unique hero trait. The character creation screen does a fantastic job of selling the vibe of each class, but equally will confuse anyone at the outset of their experience. Granted, it fits one of the primary points of Infinite's flexible builds and how player choice matters, although I wish there was more emphasis on video presentation and showcasing these branching improvements. Much of the same sentiment on my end floods into the onboarding process as well. After choosing Frostfire Gemma, I ran through the beginning areas, got acquainted with Infinite's hand-holding interface tutorials lacking additional context, and the eventual barrage of systems befitting an in-depth ARPG. Having a boatload of systems to encourage players to experiment and feel rewarded for their play for hours and hours on end is severely important in ARPGs, but Infinite introduces too much of them early in and not naturally. It can be a lot for someone who isn't overly enthusiastic about them, such as skill nodes, talent trees, and passive buffs, mixed in with all of the live service progression charts and bloated tabs of text that serve as checklists to optimize every other level up. While my first impressions were not great, the developers managed to streamline the process of jumping between them though, which felt easy over time while trekking through a zone. Eventually I understood what each was for, their benefits, and how they factor into my capabilities. The fluid rotation of leveling up with simple button presses and feeling powerful after adding a supportive buff to my attacking abilities hooked me to Infinite's progression style. The best part is that I spent less time in those menus because of Infinite's mobile process, allowing me to thoroughly enjoy the biggest highlight of the game, which to me is the zone-to-zone gameplay loop. I really genuinely had a great time with Infinite's gameplay. Skills felt impactful and I had so many to play around with. Zones were really varied in functionality and enemies. They introduced environmental hazards unique to those areas with the occasional special mob. The current season's enemies would pop up too, giving me a hard time if I didn't dodge or use my brain to, use my skills proactively. And oh man, some bosses were actually super challenging. They had a varied pool of attacks, phases, and cutscenes, helping to amp up the epic encounter that I honestly was not expecting in Infinite. Looking at the background of the devs at XD Entertainment, it's clear to see their expertise for making other prominent ARPGs like Diablo, for example, is really showing in Infinite's fleshed out zones, enemies, and even the progression hook from the get-go. I was so involved in climbing the level ladder that I almost forgot Infinite even had a cash shop and purchasable passes for currency and items. These monetization schemes felt avoidable in the beginning, frankly, almost non-existent if Infinite didn't really show it to me. The hero cash app reminds me of PoE, honestly. You know, it allows players to purchase skins for their character appearance, animation effects, inventory expansion items, and the like. Though there is a lot of uproar about pets obtainable through the shop, which according to players later in the game, it contributes around 20 to 50% of your overall power. The decision to make them accessible via the shop has led to a whole lot of review bombs on the game's Steam page, with other factors like battle and monthly passes adding insult to injury. The pet situation with the cap shop is definitely a problem, but the battle pass is really concerning to me. The devs have locked certain benefits behind the premium track, namely the auto loot and hero traits that you can gain from just the early levels of the of the premium track. You know, it literally teases players who are free to play to fork over $15 to just, you know, get those particular items and those benefits. And at the time of writing this, a new event is in full swing with another hero trait that can be gained from gacha rolling. And you can spend upwards to $100 if you get unlucky trying to get this trait from the banner.
Yikes.
Playtesters, before the open beta was released, said the developers would never introduce play-to-win elements into Infinite, but it turns out none of that was true. A few decisions to change the monetization after all the bad feedback could determine how long players stick around, but it's clear that their most faithful backers were burned, basically, and XD continues to introduce ways to make assessing new content a money-throwing contest of how much are you willing to give up. If I could ignore the monetization schemes, I'd say Torchlight Infinite is worth your time. The story is solid with nicely directed cutscenes and voice acting. The gameplay is tight and consistently fun, and filling out your progression trees is so impactful. You see the results like immediately. The ARPG hook is definitely here, yet eventually I suspect a wall is bound to appear for you down the line. I stopped somewhere around midway to chapter 2 and didn't encounter any need to pay for something, but long time committers will likely come up to that wall. Those players will probably be min-maxers who love to make busted as hell builds or do multiple runs within a season. Torchlight Infinite seems to be able to satisfy that appeal, but how it manages to make all those factors fair and not abrasive to that audience will be crucial to its longevity and growth. I can confirm, however, that free-to-play players will experience a solid ARPG from the jump. If PC players can look past its mobile qualities, Infinite will be a nice time sink for them too. Overall, it fits the trend of video games that will hold you over before the next behemoth title comes to the genre. Well, that wraps up my final thoughts on Torchlight Infinite on PC. If the game sounds like your cup of tea and you'd like to get your hands on it, check it out on Steam and Android's Google Store and give it a shot. Once you do, be sure to come back and let us know how your experience went. Also, thank you for watching today's review. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, hit that bell and give us a like. It goes a long way and we appreciate your support. This is Anthony with MMOBomb.com signing off.